Hey everyone, just a quick reminder. Only about 25% of you watching are subscribed to the channel. If you're enjoying the content, hitting that subscribe button would really help the channel grow. And while you're at it, smash that like button too. It helps a ton, and lets me know you're enjoying the content. Thanks for being here, and let's dive into the story. I got the job at Denver International Airport's overnight security team because I needed easy money, and I figured, how hard could it be? I imagined watching cameras, eating airport food, maybe kicking out a drunk guy or two. Nothing crazy. That was before I met Bill. Bill had been working night shifts here since forever. The dude looked like he survived at least 2 wars, 3 divorces, and probably a couple of exorcisms. He sat in the break room, eating a gas station burrito like it had personally wronged him, when I walked in for my first shift. "So you're the new guy, huh?" He didn't look up. "Yeah, I'm Mike. You're Bill?" "Unfortunately." He swallowed, then pointed at the massive binder sitting on the table. "Read that." The title on the cover said, "Night Shift Rules. Read or Die." I laughed. Bill didn't. "All right, man. This is kind of dramatic, don't you think?" "Yeah," he said, licking cheese off his fingers. "That's what Jerry said." "You want to know where Jerry is?" I waited for the punchline. Bill just stared at me. I sat down and started reading. Rules for the night shift at Denver International Airport 1. If you hear footsteps behind you in Concourse B between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m., keep walking. Do not turn around. They only follow people who acknowledge them. 2. If a flight arrives that isn't on the schedule, do not approach. Do not open the doors. Do not speak to anyone on board. Call dispatch and report an unscheduled arrival. Then leave. If someone inside knocks, leave faster. 3. The murals in Terminal A change sometimes. If you notice a change, do not mention it. Do not take photos. Keep walking. If the mural is looking at you, run. 4. If a man in a brown suit asks you where to find the gate, do not answer. Just keep walking. There is no gate. There never was. 5. The intercom will announce a code 6 once per night. That is normal. If you hear a second announcement, it is not the intercom. Do not respond. Do not look up. No one has ever seen what happens when someone looks up. 6. If you see your own reflection in a terminal window, blink when you didn't. Leave the area immediately. It's trying to switch places. 7. If an employee who no longer works here shows up and asks for their shift back, say no. Especially if it's Karen. If you see Karen, call security. She was lost in 2009. Even if someone inside calls for help, there's no one inside who needs help. 9. If the bathroom lights flicker 3 times, evacuate. It means he is waking up. 10. If a second bill arrives for the night shift, leave immediately. Do not tell either one of them that there are 2. You don't want to see what happens if they find out. I looked up at Bill, expecting him to laugh. He just took another bite of his burrito. "Okay," I said. "What kind of hazing ritual is this?" "Not hazing," Bill muttered. "Just hope you don't break any." "So you're telling me this place is haunted?" Bill exhaled. "Kid, haunted is when you hear whispers or see doors close on their own. This place is worse than haunted." He leaned forward. "This place is wrong." My first shift was boring, until 2:13 a.m. I was making my rounds through Concourse B when I heard it. Footsteps, right behind me. The airport was empty. No passengers, no janitors, just me. And yet I could hear it, shoes clicking against the tile, perfectly in sync with my own steps. I stopped walking. The footsteps didn't. They took 2 more steps and then stopped. Right behind me. I remembered the rule. Keep walking. Do not turn around. My legs locked up. My entire body screamed at me to look, but I forced myself forward, step by step. The footsteps started again, following, matching my speed exactly. I reached a corner, my heart hammering. The second I turned it, The footsteps stopped. I stood there, sweating buckets. I didn't look back. I didn't wait. I power walked straight to the break room. Bill looked up from his phone. "You hear him?" I nodded, still out of breath. Bill just popped open a Mountain Dew. "Yeah, they do that." That was when the plane landed. The tower didn't announce it. No pilots checked in. It just appeared at gate 32. Dark, silent, no passengers stepping off. The monitors showed no incoming flights. The side of the plane had no airline logo, just a number. 191. The door slid open. Something moved inside. I grabbed my radio. Bill? We got an unscheduled arrival at gate 32. Silence. Then Bill's voice. "You near it? Kinda. Leave. Now." "What? Shouldn't we?" "Now." I didn't argue. I turned and booked it. As I ran, I heard something step onto the jet bridge behind me, and then from inside the plane, a voice. Software wrong. Too many mouths speaking at once. "Mike, we've been waiting for you." I sprinted back to the break room. Bill was already standing, tossing me his car keys. "Kid, you want to live? Go home right now." "What the hell was that?" Bill didn't answer. He just looked really, really tired. And that's when I noticed something behind him. The break room window. Bill's reflection wasn't moving. "Bill, don't move." My voice came out as a whisper, barely holding it together. Bill, still standing near the break room window, frowned. "Why?" I swallowed. His reflection wasn't moving. It just stood there, staring at me. Its mouth was slightly open, but Bill's mouth was closed in real life. "Kid, why are you looking at me like that?" Bill asked, slowly turning. And the second he did, the reflection smiled. Not a normal smile. Too wide, too many teeth. "Bill!" The lights flickered just for a second. And when they came back, his reflection was gone. I stumbled backward, heart pounding. Bill looked at the window, saw nothing weird, then turned back to me, unimpressed. "You good?" he asked, cracking open a Mountain Dew. "Bill, your reflection was smiling at me." He blinked, took a sip, then sighed. "Ah, damn. That means I got about 10 minutes. 10 minutes for what?" Bill pulled his phone out and started typing. "To get my affairs in order." I didn't like that answer. Before I could even process what just happened, the intercom crackled to life. "Attention, all airport personnel. A Code 6 is now in effect. Repeat, a Code 6 is now in effect." I turned to Bill. "What the hell does that mean?" He sighed. "It means we sit down, shut up, and wait for it to be over." Then he pointed to Terminal A. "Also, don't make eye contact with that guy." A man in a brown suit was walking slowly across the terminal, dragging his suitcase behind him. Except, he wasn't touching the ground. His shoes hovered an inch above the floor. "What happens if I look at him?" I whispered. Bill popped open a bag of beef jerky. "He'll ask you where the gate is." "And if I tell him?" Bill ripped off a chunk of jerky and chewed thoughtfully, then shrugged. "Then I guess you'll find out what's on the other side." I didn't like that answer either. By now, I was thoroughly done with this job. I was counting the minutes until my shift ended, until someone knocked on the break room door. A woman's voice. "Hey guys, it's Karen. Can someone let me in?" I froze. Looked at Bill. Bill's face darkened. "Don't move," he whispered. "But she sounds..." "That's not Karen." The voice knocked again. "Guys? Seriously? I just want my shift back." The lights flickered. The temperature dropped. The voice got closer. "Come on, Bill. Don't be an asshole. You left me in there." Something scratched against the door. "It's so cold in there, Bill. It's so dark. Please let me in." Bill reached into his pocket, pulled out a pocket Bible, and held it up to the door. A horrible, inhuman screech rang out. Then silence. After a long pause, Bill muttered, "I really gotta stop leaving my shit in the tunnels." I turned to him. "What did you just say?" He just cracked his neck and leaned back in his chair. "So, you sticking around for tomorrow's shift?" That's when it hit me. Bill said he had 10 minutes after the reflection thing. That was over half an hour ago. "Hey, you still feeling okay?" I asked. Bill hesitated, then smirked. "Yeah, kid, but I think it's about that time." He stood up, tossed me his badge, and clapped a hand on my shoulder. "Do me a favor?" he asked. Yeah?" He grinned. "Don't let him hire another Bill." And before I could say anything, he walked out, down the terminal, straight toward Gate 32, the one with the unscheduled flight. I watched, frozen, as he stepped onto the empty plane. The door slid shut behind him, and just like that, the plane disappeared. The intercom crackled. "Attention all personnel. Bill has left the airport. Please welcome the new night shift lead." I didn't breathe. A single tap echoed behind me. The sound of dress shoes. A voice whispered, "Mike, where is the gate?" The voice behind me whispered again, "Mike, where is the gate?" I didn't turn around. Rule number 4. If a man in a brown suit asks you where to find the gate, do not answer. Bill's voice echoed in my head. "If you tell him, you'll find out what's on the other side." Nope. Not happening. I clenched my jaw and kept walking. "Mike, I know you can hear me." I walked faster. "Mike, if you don't tell me, I'll ask your reflection instead." I stopped. My reflection. My breath hitched. The window next to me showed my silhouette against the dimly lit terminal, and standing behind me wasn't human. The man in the brown suit was wrong. His arms were too long. His suit was seamless, like skin, not fabric. His fingers had too many joints, and his face? It wasn't a face at all. Just empty, stretched skin like a mannequin that had never been finished. And yet, somehow, I knew it was smiling. I bolted. I ran through Terminal A, heart pounding past empty chairs and shuttered coffee shops. I skidded to a stop when I saw the mural. It was different now. Before, it had been one of those weird-ass Denver airport paintings. Colorful, chaotic, vaguely unsettling. Now, it was a perfectly realistic portrait of Bill. His eyes were pleading. His mouth was open, screaming. And behind him, painted in the background, was Gate 32, the plane that took him. The door was still open, and something inside was watching. I took a step back, blood running cold. The mural's eyes shifted. They locked onto me. And then, in tiny handwritten letters, words began to appear at the bottom of the painting. "You are next." I didn't know where to go. I needed time to think, to breathe, so I ducked into the nearest bathroom. The lights buzzed overhead. The mirrors stretched down the length of the sinks. And at the far end, a janitor was mopping the floor. He moved in slow, deliberate strokes. One step forward, one step back. Swish, swish. I sighed in relief, a normal human being. "Hey man, rough night, huh?" I joked, stepping up to the sink. No answer. Swish, swish. "Dude, you good?" The janitor's head twitched. Slowly, painfully slowly, he turned to face me. And I realized his mop wasn't touching the floor. Swish, swish. The motion continued, but the mop never actually hit the tiles. His mouth stretched open, too wide. His voice came out in a garbled mess of static and whispers. "Mike, where is the gate?" I sprinted out of the bathroom so fast I nearly dislocated a lung. I ran back to the break room, slammed the door shut, and locked it. I was shaking. What the hell was this place? A soft knock. "Hey guys, it's Karen. Can someone let me in?" I went rigid. The lights flickered. A slow scraping sound dragged across the door. "Come on, Mike. You let Bill go. Why won't you let me?" A deep, wet gurgling sound filled the room. I grabbed the Bible Bill left behind and clutched it to my chest. The scraping stopped, and Karen laughed. "See you soon." Then silence. I had to find answers. I had to know what was happening. The only person who could tell me was Bill. And I had one idea where to find him: the tunnels. I ran to the service elevator, slammed the button, and waited. Somewhere, far away, a siren wailed. The lights flickered again. The doors slid open. I stepped inside and pressed B1. The underground tunnels of Denver Airport are famous. Conspiracy theorists say there's a whole secret society down there. That it's not just storage and maintenance. That there's something alive under the airport. I was about to find out if they were right. The elevator descended. Slow. Too slow. My ears popped. The air got thick. I checked my phone. No service. The elevator stopped. B1. Underground level. The doors creaked open. The hallway ahead was dark, and something moved at the end of it. Something tall, waiting for me. And then, the elevator doors slammed shut. And I realized I wasn't going to B1. The screen flickered, and a new floor appeared. B6. The gate. The elevator kept descending, and somewhere deep below the airport, something started laughing. B2, B3, B4. I slammed the emergency stop button. Nothing happened. The screen flickered. B5. A voice whispered through the speaker. "Almost there, Mike." I backed into the corner, heart pounding. B6, the gate. The doors slid open. It was pitch black. The air was thick, wet, humid, like breathing inside a grave. Something shifted in the dark. A shape, tall, grotesque, unfolding from the shadows like a nightmare waking up. A voice, wrong, too many mouths speaking at once, echoed from the void. "You shouldn't have come here." The lights flickered, just for a second, and I saw it. It wasn't human. It had limbs, but they were wrong. Joints that bent the opposite way. Fingers too long, like antennae reaching for something unseen. Its head. It had too many faces, all stacked on top of each other, merging, shifting, screaming in silent agony. They were people, or they used to be. One of them was Bill. His face was buried in its shoulder, mouth open, screaming. But no sound came out. I stepped back into the elevator. The doors didn't close. "What is this?" My voice came out as a choked whisper. The thing crawled forward, its limbs bending like a dying spider. "We are the gate." It dragged itself closer. "We are the ones left behind." The faces twitched. They were crying. I reached for my radio. "Dispatch. Someone get me out of here." Static. Then, a voice. Bill's voice. "Told you not to come down here, kid." I whirled around, but he wasn't there. Just his face, trapped in the monster's shifting skin. His eyes rolled to look at me. "Mike, listen carefully." The monster lurched forward. I froze. "Don't let it touch you." I bolted. Down the hallway, through the dark, past rows of empty chairs and forgotten luggage. The floor was wet. The walls were breathing. And behind me? The thing was coming. I didn't look back. It moved wrong. Limbs unfolding, skittering across the ceiling, dragging its mass toward me. I hit a dead end. A metal door. I slammed my fist against it. "Help! Open up!" A peephole slid open. A single bloodshot eye stared at me. Then, the door unlocked. I threw myself inside. The door slammed shut, and the locks clicked back into place. I collapsed onto the floor, gasping for breath. A voice muttered from the shadows. "Well, that was stupid." I looked up. A man sat against the wall sipping a flask. He was old, unshaven, smelled like cigarettes and bad decisions. His uniform was faded but still recognizable. An airport employee, or at least he used to be. "Who the hell are you?" I wheezed. He chuckled. "Damn, they really don't tell the new hires anything anymore, huh?" He took another sip. "Name's Hank. Been down here since '97. I stared at him. "Since 1997? That's not possible." He shrugged. Neither is a 20-foot-tall meat spider made of dead employees, but here we are. Fair point. Hank leaned back, staring at the ceiling. This place ain't just an airport, kid. It's a prison. A prison? For what? He gestured back toward the door. That. I felt sick. You mean the gate? Hank nodded. They built this airport to cover it up. He let that sink in. The murals? The tunnels? The weird-ass layout? It's all part of the lock. Keeps them trapped down here, away from the public. I swallowed hard. Who is them? Hank's face darkened. People who never clocked out. Before I could respond, the radio crackled. Mike, where is the gate? The blood drained from my face. Ah, hell, Hank muttered, standing up. I turned to him. We have to get out of here. He sighed. Yeah, about that. There's only one way out. He pointed to a rusted stairwell at the end of the hall. That leads back up to Concourse B, but we gotta move fast, he's already here. Footsteps echoed from the corridor outside. Slow, deliberate. Then, a knock at the door. Mike, open up. I grabbed Hank's arm. Go. Now. We ran. The door burst open behind us. I didn't look back. I didn't have to. I could feel it. The air went wrong. Reality glitched. The shadows stretched too far. The floor rippled like water. And the man in the brown suit stepped through. His voice slithered down the hall. Mike, if you run, you'll never know what's on the other side. I didn't stop. We reached the stairs, took them 3 at a time. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, and just as we reached the top, the lights flickered out, and the last thing I heard before the darkness swallowed us was Bill's voice. Mike, you should have left when you had the chance. I couldn't see a damn thing. The lights were out. Hank and I stood at the top of the stairwell panting while the hallway behind us stretched into pure blackness. Somewhere in the dark, he was coming. The man in the brown suit. His voice drifted toward us, soft and amused. Mike, where is the gate? Hank shoved me forward. Move. We took off through Concourse B, past darkened gates, rows of empty chairs, abandoned luggage left behind by people who were never supposed to leave. The intercom crackled. Attention, all airport personnel. A final boarding call for Flight 191 is now in effect. I skidded to a stop. Flight 191, the unscheduled plane, the one that took Bill, and suddenly, I knew where we had to go. Come on! I yelled. We bolted toward Gate 32, and the closer we got, the more reality broke apart. The airport was glitching. Everything around us warped and twisted, chairs stretching too long, floor tiles melting into each other, time itself skipping like a scratched record. We ran past a flight attendant frozen in place, mouth open in a silent scream, past a security guard walking backward, replaying the same 3 seconds in an infinite loop. The walls breathed. The floor shifted like waves. The air crackled with static. And the man in the brown suit was right behind us. He wasn't walking anymore. He was gliding, moving in stop motion, disappearing and reappearing closer each time. My vision blurred, my ears rang, and then the mural changed again. It was a painting of me, standing in Gate 32, with no face. I nearly threw up. Hank grabbed my arm. Don't look at it! I forced my legs to move. We were almost there. Almost. 5 a.m. Final boarding call. Gate 32 loomed ahead, and the plane was still there, waiting. The boarding door was open. The interior lights glowed like a predator's eyes in the dark, and standing in the jet bridge, just barely visible, was Bill. His uniform was pristine, his posture was stiff, and he was smiling. Mike, he called. You made it. I hesitated. Something about him was off. His mouth didn't move right. His voice had an echo, like it was coming from inside the plane instead of his body. Hank grabbed my wrist. Kid, if you get on that plane, "You're never coming back." Bill tilted his head. "That's not true," he said. "We always come back." Then he stepped aside, gesturing for me to board, and that's when I saw them, the passengers, sitting in their seats, perfectly still, perfectly silent, each one staring straight ahead, each one wearing the same uniform as me. Each one had my face. The man in the brown suit was getting closer. The walls melted, reality rippled, and I had two choices: get on the plane, turn around and face him. My body locked up. Hank gritted his teeth. "Kid, whatever you do, don't..." The intercom interrupted. "Final boarding call for Mike. Repeat, final boarding call for Mike." The passengers all turned their heads toward me at the same time, and they smiled. Nope. I turned and ran. The man in the brown suit was waiting. He stood between us and the exit, smiling, too wide. His fingers twitched. "Mike," he whispered, "you've seen behind the curtain. That means you have to stay." The floor dropped. I felt weightless. The air collapsed inward. I saw everything at once. The tunnels, the murals, the faces trapped in the gate, all the people who broke the rules. And then, Bill's voice. "Kid." I gasped. "Mike." I opened my eyes. I was back in the break room, sitting in Bill's old chair, holding his badge in my hand. The intercom crackled. "Attention, all airport personnel. A Code 6 is now in effect." The door swung open. A young guy walked in, wide-eyed, nervous, fresh-faced. Hey, I'm the new night shift hire?" I just stared at him. Then, slowly, I slid the night shift rulebook across the table. He frowned. "What's this?" I took a deep breath and smiled. "Read that." "Why?" I cracked open a Mountain Dew. "Because I'm not explaining this twice." Before my shift ended, I walked past Terminal A one last time. The mural was different now. The faces were new. One of them was Hank. His eyes followed me as I walked past. A single line of text appeared beneath his face. "You are next." The intercom clicked. "Mike, where is the gate?" I kept walking, and I didn't look back.